Welcome to our event, My Life, My Business. Wish I was here. And it's interesting, as part of our title, we say wish I was here. And I just want to say is that with everything that we're talking about, is that we want you to answer this particular question or wish in terms of a confirmation. I am here. I am engaged and I am present in my life. I am enjoying my life. And I fully wake up every morning looking forward to making the kind of impact that I know I've been called to make. So, anyway, a special welcome to Shanaaz. And Shanaaz is going to be treating us to a topic, a special Monday topic, just to inspire us, motivate us to be able to answer that particular question. Are you present in your life with I am here? So, to all of you listening, you're in for a wonderful treat. Over to you, Shanaaz.
Hi, Jacques. That's a lot of pressure, but hi, everyone. So obviously, I think that with the last time that we spoke, I was kind of really inspired and needed to go and look at some things, and some of the things that kind of stood out for me was, I think what we spoke about was this connection. Stood out strongly for me, and also like how you build this connection and your tribe essentially, gathering important, I think for me, gathering important people around you, and kind of what I was particularly I think over the past 2 weeks have been caught up with, is, we've also been talking about resiliency in a sense, and I've realized that I've read actually, and I know because I work with the concept of resilience, that the key to a resiliency is apparently asking for help. And I've discovered that there are people, and even sometimes myself, I can be guilty of that, that we sometimes, there are times that we struggle to ask for help. And so I actually found, in addition to my work, where I see patients for counseling, and I work with students who come from a range of different backgrounds. But it's really interesting to note that, for example, people in general really struggle to ask for help. Yet that is one of the key concepts, or a key trait or characteristic to be successful, as well as to, connect with people. If we are unable to ask for help, we often go it alone, and the issue is that, what happens when we go it alone? What are the consequences when we go it alone? And I found this really helpful article, and I wanted to understand why people struggle to ask for help. And I think that, for example, particularly within counseling, but then I discovered it's not only within the counseling field, but it's in generally in our work environment, whether you in retail, whether you in whichever business. I think that as colleagues, we sometimes struggle to ask our colleagues for help. And I was really curious because of one or two patients that I'm working with, and some people that I know, I get very frustrated, because afterward I will discover that they needed help, but they didn't come to me in time. I get, I unfortunately I get a little frustrated with my students who wait until just before the exam to tell me that they're struggling. So, what I'd like you to think about is what blocks you, or prevents you from asking for help. And, and as I said, being able to recognize when we need to ask for help, and being able to ask for help is really key. And what this one, so I found actually a Harvard Business Review article by a coach and psychologist, and what she was saying is that people have, there's this myth of self-reliance, right? And I think it's about, we need to be independent, we need to be strong individuals. We need to be reliant on ourselves, etc. And I think that even last week we kind of spoke about interdependence in a sense. So what they say is that though humans are social creatures ready to both give and accept help, many of us really struggle to ask for it. And what she says is that actually, over a time, it can actually make you miserable and bitter if you are one of those people who go it alone and never ask for help. And what we have realized is that when there was the shift towards remote working, which I mean, I think it's still there. We've woken up to this realization that we can work from home. And what she said is that this has made it worse. So if you are someone who find it challenging to ask for help, it can become even more challenging in this environment. However, if you want to be fulfilled and successful, it's important to, however, acknowledge when you're working beyond your individual capacity and you need to be open for assistance. So, for example, particularly I find with women in the workplace, corporate women, women who come see me in counseling, even in academia, whichever field, there is so much pressure, to kind of care for your family and also, be the boss at work. And what I actually find is that when I start talking to some of the women and even my students, I find that they really struggle even to ask their families for support and help. And what then happens is that, sometimes it can lead to burnout. It can lead to a number of things if you don't ask for help. So what her name is it's Manfred de Vries, and what she says, what I found it really interesting, because I've seen this in my students and I've seen this in some patients. She talks about what are the things that get in the way of us being able to ask for help. So one of the things that apparently they've identified, there's a particular mentality that goes with when you want to do it on your own. So one of the first thing is the fear of being vulnerable. So they say that often if you struggle to ask for help, it's around your perception of being insecure, or you can be preoccupied with other people's perceptions of yourself. And often people view this as a sign of weakness. However, it's the ones who struggle to be vulnerable who view this as a sign of weakness. And in fact, what we know is that asking for help is not actually a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength. But for those who fear being vulnerable, the reason why they don't often ask for help is that they are afraid that asking for help will make them seem incompetent and inferior. And we typically often know about that imposter syndrome. But what will happen is that sometimes people actually use the imposter syndrome as as a way to not ask for help. And so what we try to do then is we can unintentionally, by appearing strong, by not asking for help, what you can do is you can actually unintentionally keep people at an arm's length. And you can also what then happens is you can isolate yourself, and because people find it very difficult then to approach you because you seem so kept together. And so the idea then is you're going to unintentionally isolate yourself. Another um, reason why people struggle to ask for help is again the need to be independent. And when self sufficiency and self reliance is a priority for you, asking for help can feel uncomfortable. sometimes we also struggle to ask for help. This need then to prioritize being self sufficient, it can also maybe because of your family background or your cultural background, where you have got to be the lone ranger, you've got to take care of things yourself, you've got to be seen as capable and handling everything. And I think with the pressure that we often, in the workplace environment, there is a real fear that, if you show any sign of weakness, that you are going to be viewed as incompetent. Or in our families, even, you've always got to be the one that holds it together. You've always got to be the one that organizes everything. And our families can actually program us to be this strong individual person who does not require any help. And I mean, there can be so many scenarios. I remember my mom kind of fiercely, which really benefit us, my sisters and myself. It really benefited us to understand that we need to be independent, strong women. However, there are times that I know that myself and my siblings, we actually tend to, what we find is that, some people find us unapproachable in our work areas and in our personal lives because we are so strong and independent. And we also struggle to ask for help. And I know one of my sisters, she struggles to delegate things. And this is because our families, values in our family is about being strong and independent. And then it's, even when we struggle in situations, it's then very challenging for us then to work in a team. So you actually find that even this idea of being independent and strong and competent can actually be, a hindrance even to teamwork. So if you think about it, like, it's not just about asking, for help, but your inability, to ask for help can really, affect your ability to work in a team also. And so another, barrier to asking for help is the fear of losing control. And what they found is that some people won't ask for help because they don't want to feel like beholden to anyone. And some people who fear losing control, it's also about issues around trust. And I think that we focused a bit on trust a few weeks ago. And what is really important then is to think about how you can, shift your idea around trust and in this relationship or the fear of losing control. I think that it's about, what they suggest is, think about don't think about, asking others for help as if it's a win-lose situation, but rather see it as a win-win situation where there's actually equal power. And lots of people, what they found is, when people are afraid of asking for help, they actually don't see, they see the other person who they are asking for help as powerful. But in reality, when we're asking for help, we have the power and the other person. So it's not about, this person will have, in a sense, power over you. And what kind of happens is, if we decide to carry the burden of problems on our own, what you actually then find is that it can become, detrimental to our mental health, to our success, if we decide that we are not going to ask for help because we have this idea that if I ask this person for help, they're going to have power over me. Another issue that really prevents us from, asking for help sometimes, and I find this with a lot of the patients that I see, is the fear of rejection. And what, the author says is that many of us often overestimate the likelihood that that we're going to ask for help for is going to say no. And they actually say that, if you imagine or you perceive that whoever you want to ask for help is going to say no, then it actually is quite a big obstacle to overcome. Because what then happens is, you are then, if you fear this rejection, you are then basing this person's refusal, you see the person's refusal as a sign of rejection. Yet, in reality, some people may refuse, but it's not necessary because there's something wrong with you, or because you think that you are incompetent, or they're refusing you because they don't think you're worthy of the help. But actually, what some of us need to learn is that sometimes people reject us because maybe that wasn't the right time, or there isn't we didn't ask in a particular way where they understood the situation. And so there are many reasons then why people say no. And what I find in my practice when I see patients is that some of my patients really struggle with rejection, and they tend to take the rejection very personally. And often I have to try and help them understand that the reason why they were rejected, or they were refused, someone refused to help them, is not necessary about who they are as a person, but it has to do with the context or the particular situation. So something rather objective, unrelated to the person. But I find that this seems to be the reason why, which stops people from asking for help, because they fear rejection. And this is really something that, if you're a person who fears rejection, then this is something that you really need to work on, because it will stand in the way of your success, because people are going to say no to us all the time for our requests. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't ask. And so another reason, so I'm going to go over a few reasons why people struggle. And if you are a, whether you're a coach, or even if you are in a management position, I mean, this is one of as I said, as a leader, I struggle to understand this, because I'm a kind of person who I perceive myself as someone who is always asking for help. And I always struggle then when I find that my patients, my students, and some people that I know, don't ask for help, and I tend to get annoyed. And that's why I find this understanding the reasons why people are afraid to ask for help has been very valuable to me. So another reason, and which I even hadn't realized, is another reason why people struggle to ask for help, is that they are empathizing with others. So, over empathizing with others basically means that you are always the one giving help. If you are always the one giving help, or you are always so attuned to other people's emotions and you can anticipate their reactions, what will happen is that often you may find that you feel like you're a burden. You don't want to add to the burden of others. And this is something that, for those who often find that they are supporting other people, they're caring for others, they're taking responsibility for others, we do need to stop and think, am I do I find it difficult to ask others for help because I'm so busy giving help to other people? Because this can actually stand in the way of getting real support that we need, making real connections um, with others, because we again seem like we just have it together and we don't ask for help. And so what you find is that often people who are the caretakers and the responsibility holders in the families or in the workplace, what you find is that you feel that if you don't, you protecting others when you don't ask for help. And so this is something that I, for example, need to think about as well, because often in my role, I feel that I may want to because of the kind of roles that I have, that I want to protect others. But I so need to be aware that my need to care and protect others can actually prevent me from getting the right support that I need, and the kind of my fear of not delegating, but yeah, asking others to come along and help me with things that I plan, things that I do, whether that's organizing an event, whether that is organizing even sometimes a lecture. Another reason then for why people do not ask for help is that they have a sense of victimhood. And this is really interesting, and I hadn't realized it, and it's really made me see my clients and my patients in a new way. And what they say is that people who go through life thinking that I don't deserve to be helped, I'm not worthy, they really seek help. And I found this really fascinating, and it made me think about that I do then need to talk about, in when I'm engaging or going to events, engaging with people and women particularly, or any group that I engage with, in my work, in my field, that I need to be thinking that actually sometimes people don't feel worthy of asking for support, and that's why they're not getting support, or they're not coming to me. And so I need to make a special effort to encourage those, um, to ask for help, whether it's my students, that I need to specifically address that, you do deserve to ask for help. I am available, and realize that sometimes students, because of their self-esteem, because of my client's self-esteem, they will struggle on their own because they feel that they are not worthy of seeking support. And then what you then kind of find is what they recommend is that if you are that person who struggle, or people who struggle to ask for help, then what you need to think about is you need to encourage them to rewrite their inner script, because this is about a self-esteem or a self-worth issue, that is probably related to their childhood. Feeling afraid to ask mom or dad for help, feeling afraid to ask the teacher or an authority figure for help. And what people most likely need in order to ask for help, you need to have some sort of confidence to believe that I am worthy of asking for help. And so, for those of us who are coaches, what we then need to be working on with a group of people who struggle to ask for help or seem quite independent is that maybe we need to work on their self confidence and their self awareness to accept, that they are worthy, and to accept themselves, and also to make them aware that they can experience burnout or really struggle emotionally if they don't get support or help. Because often the people who don't ask for help are overburdened and have so much pressure. And I particularly know someone who experiences anxiety, and that's why it's about needing to work on the inner scripts. Another thing, for example, another reason as to how we can overcome our fear of asking for help or support is to reframe, and to kind of see it as, and I really love this, that for those of us who struggle to ask for help, or if we want to empower our clients or my students to asking for help, that I should reframe it for them, that I should see this and encourage them that they can see asking for help as in contributing to a project, or contributing, giving the person that you're asking for help, whether it's a family member or your husband, or an aunt or uncle or cousin, see that as giving them an opportunity to step up and contribute to your success. A colleague, if you're struggling go to a colleague and see yourself asking a colleague for help. See it and reframe it that you are giving your colleague an opportunity to step up and contribute to the success of the team. And this is the win-win proposition where your husband that you're afraid to ask for help, or your aunt or your brother or sister, see this as an opportunity for them to step up to contribute to the success of the family. And so I really appreciated that. And it's made me see, even for myself, um, getting the help of others as giving them an opportunity to contribute to the team success, to contribute to an event success. So this is helping them, in a sense, feel part and having that sense of belonging as well. And so what they also suggest then, in order to kind of address the reasons why you are afraid to ask for help, is this idea of the smart approach. And I didn't think that you could ask someone with the smart, because I usually know smart girls, but here they talk about asking smartly. And this is about when, because often people struggle to know how to ask a boss for something or a colleague or something. And so they say use the acronym which we know, specific, measurable, achievable, and they say relevant and time bound. So if you want to ask someone, be specific. Let them understand, when it needs to be measurable. So how much time? It needs to be achievable, and then it needs to be time bound. Can you help me? I need this by the end of the month. I need this. I need you to help me write this particular article, or I need you to give me something. Be specific about what it is, and then have it time bound. And as I said, I've always thought that this is only applies to girls, but I hadn't realized that I can use the SMART acronym for asking for help as well. So what I want to kind of add is that what you can do is that practice asking for help. And they say what I'd kind of like you to walk away from this conversation that we're having today is that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and that to the contrary, it can be one of the most courageous things that you can do. One of the benefits is that it can vastly improve your relationships. It can free up time for you to focus on the most critical tasks that you want to focus on, whether it's at home or at work. And the idea is that you don't try to always go it alone, but that you be smart enough to know when you need help and to ask for it effectively. And what I want to encourage those who struggle to ask for help is to really explore the reasons why you struggle to ask for help, and then to kind of own it and to try to address some of it as well, because it really is, asking for help is really a key to resiliency, and it's a key to your success as well. Thank you.
Shanaaz, thank you for that. I mean, you're talking to somebody who personally battles in this area. And I can't help but think about the giver's curse, something that you touched on, that you're so in a mode of wanting to give and supporting that it's very difficult to ask, because it's not part and parcel of your way of even thinking, until you give so sacrificially that you yourself cannot recognize that you need assistance. And then I thought about, there's an aspect sometimes that givers have, that givers, because you said, people are sometimes they over empathize. And I
Yeah.
believe that's a part and parcel of where givers sit. They over empathize, and so therefore they great, in a sense, of anticipating the need, and then they want that in return. I'm not going to say what I need. I don't ask. I just give. So I want people around me to also just anticipate my need and give me as I give. And therein lies part and parcel of some of the challenges, from a giver's perspective. somebody who just automatically wants to give all the time. I know I'm just picking something at random. There's so much that I wanted to talk about, but it is that aspect of anticipate what I need as I anticipate your need. Like sort of the silent asking and becoming quite
Absolutely. And that,
frustrated.
yeah, yeah.
And I was just thinking that, like, for example, and I've used this example once or twice. You go into a supermarket, don't ask. You go looking, spend a half an hour looking for something, and then eventually, when just as you've given up, you then ask, okay, where can I find this thing, rather than just short-circuiting all of that as a sort of very practical means. The other one that really taps into the ego, broadly speaking, sometimes just testosterone driven, is I'm lost, but I'm going to try my best.
Classic. That's a classic one, yes.
I'm not going to admit I'm lost. And if anybody even suggests that matter, it causes great conflict. And we end up not arriving at our destination at all or on time. So, but thank you for that. And also that reframe is giving somebody the opportunity to contribute to the success of a shared project, giving somebody the opportunity to collaborate with you in order to achieve success, no matter what it is, a goal, a task, a specific task, but overall, that team contribution. So anyway, I can go on and on and on, revamp. So I really love this topic because it's very simple, yet it's very powerful, and all the reasons that you highlighted. And then asking smartly, very nice. Very nice. Because that deals with somebody who silently sits there and thinks, well, you need to anticipate my need. Or I'm afraid to come out. I don't know how to ask. And asking smartly is then the framework to be specific and to make sure that you're asking for something that can be met. I want so much. I mean, when you're in a non-profit organization, one of the things they always teach us in terms of fundraising, be clear. What is it that you want? And ask for what you want. Don't be airy-fairy about it. Anyway, Shanaaz, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you, everyone.
And yep, until next week, do not be afraid to ask and understand that life's journey is so joyful because you're traveling with others. So ask them. All right, until next week then.
Yep, thank you.
Shanaaz and those attending with us, have a wonderful week. Enjoy the journey of doing your life and your career. Bye.
Bye.